This is going to be your video that you're going to watch every day until you get it down, but not the weekends. When you're rounding, they're either going to say round to the nearest, and then they're going to give you tens, hundreds, thousands, or they're going to underline the digit. Both of them mean the same exact thing. So I'm going to show you two examples. If I say round to the nearest hundreds, that means that, or it means the same as if they did this. Okay, so we have 536. We're going to round to the nearest hundreds. They're going to either say round to the nearest hundreds or they're going to underline the hundredths digit. So this is what we do no matter what number they underline. You're going to go to the neighbor to the right and you're going to say 5 or more, let it soar, or 4 or less, let it rest. And this is the underline digit that soars or rests. So if you have 536, I see your hand, honey. Hold on one second. So we can say this is a 4 or less. So we're going to let the underline digit rest, and that means that it stays a 5. And then everything after the underlined digit, no matter what, becomes zeros. So the answer is 500. If it was 585 and they wanted us to round to the hundredths, we're going to go to this digit here to the right and we're going to say 5 or more, let it soar, 4 or less, let it rest. So this is a 5 or more. So this 5 goes up to only 1. It can go up by 1. So it becomes a 6. And then everything after it becomes a 0. So it rounds to 600. And that's what you do no matter what. They could say round to the millionths place, round to the thousandths place, round to whatever. So we're going to try round to the thousands place. And it might look like this, or it might look like this. So either they're going to say round to the thousands place or they're going to underline the thousands place. Now, this one we're going to go to the right and we're going to say 5 or more, let it soar, 4 or less, let it rest. So we rewrite the 5. This number rests at a 3 and then everything after it becomes a 0. So it's 53,000. If the number was a 5 or more next to it, we would go to our neighbor and we would say 5 or more, let it soar, 4 or less, let it rest. So we rewrite the 5, the 3 becomes a 4, and then everything after it becomes a 0. Okay, so that is rounding.
Okay.
Now we're going to do expanded form, standard form, and word form. So expanded form means we take the number like 53 and we show how much each of the place values are worth. So 53, we have a 50 plus a 3. We're expanding it out to what it means instead of just the numbers. So if you had 7,326, we would say, what does the 7 stand for? That stands for 7,000. What does the 3 stand for? 300. What does the 2 stand for? 20. And what does the 6 stand for? That's expanded form. Think about it like this. It's expanding it out. Standard form is It could also just be called regular old how we write numbers, but they call it standard form. So if I said, Natalia, how do you write 536? That's standard form. That's just regular how we write numbers. Make sense? Then the last thing is word form, where we actually spell the words out. 53. 720. 6. 7,285, or whatever the number is. We're going to actually spell the words out. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the final thing we're going to do today is we're going to add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators. 1/3 plus 2/5. So I like to write it going up and down instead of across because I want more room. And what we're first going to do is we're going to find a number that when you multiply up by this number, you would get to the same number. So if I counted up by 3s, I would do 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. And if I counted up by 5s, I would get 5, 10, 15. And I would keep going till I got a number that they share when we're counting up. But I could already see I've already got that in 15. So I circle my 15, and then I change my denominator to 15 here, and I change my denominator to 15 on the bottom. But I can't just change a 3 to a 15. So what do I have to do? I multiply it by 5. And anything I do to the bottom number, I do to the top number. So 1 times 5 is 5. And then the same thing for this. I can't just change my 5 to a 15. So I have to say, what would I multiply it by? I would multiply it by 3. And anything I do to the bottom, I do to the top. 3 times 2 is 6. Now I have the same denominators. I can add the numerators together. 5 plus 6 is 11. And then my denominator stays the same. 11/15. I'm going to do another example because it's a little bit tricky sometimes. Okay. So if I'm counting up by my denominators, I'm going to write a 3 here and I'm going to write a 6 here. Now I'm going to count up till I get to a common number. Oh, look, I already have a common number. 6 is my common number. So I'm going to circle it. I'm going to change this to a 6 and I'm going to change this to a 6. And now I ask, how can I change my 3 to a 6? I multiply it by 2. Anything I do to the bottom, I do to the top. 2 times 2 is 4. And then how do I change my 6 to a 6? That's easy. I just multiply it by 1. And anything I do to the bottom, I do to the top. Now I have the same denominator. So I add my numerators together. 4 plus 1 equals 5/6.